had a target of training 75 entry-level trainees in Kenya and Ethiopia, and we've managed to train 70 out of 75 entry-level trainees, 44 in Kenya and 26 in Ethiopia. So that's a good success rate. It's about 93% success rate. The other good thing is that we've had so much female participation. Actually, more than half have been female participants. That's about 49 out of the 70 graduates. The other good news is because we were trying to build capacity and have people be retained either in humanitarian or development sectors. And it's very exciting to know that out of all these 70 people, about 47 are already employed in the sector in very competitive jobs, mostly in international organizations, but they're really responding in their countries at the local level. So that's very exciting. So today we had the graduation ceremony for the last cohort of trainees, both Kenyans and Ethiopia. This was held in Addis Ababa. It was a very exciting time where we got about 28 trainees graduate, share their experiences while at the host agency placements. And the good thing about this scheme is that people actually respond at the local level. I don't think there's one particular trainee who has not shared their experience in the field. We've gotten to hear about trainees who participated in the drought response in Kenya. We got to hear about trainees who responded in Gambela, Somali regions. And the benefit of this scheme, or rather what we are told by host organizations, is that it's very relevant in bringing new talent, because most people just learn on the job, but actually for trainees, they're professionally trained. So I would highly recommend this scheme to go on, or rather be replicated, because it's one project that just evidences what we really need for this sector. So trainees have not just contributed to their host organizations, but they've really contributed to the sector at large. I don't think there's one trainee who's not had a chance to do some humanitarian assistance activities or anything response related. So this is a great celebration for the Talent Development Trainee Scheme. I highly, highly recommend that this scheme goes on, or such projects be replicated in the future. Now, the scheme has not been all success. It's also been tears. We have had a lot of attrition, people dropping out of the scheme for various reasons. We had a very highly intensive distance learning that involved written assignments, online learning, and trainees had to successfully pass. Well, not everyone passed, so some failed and had to drop out, unfortunately. Then the other reason is people left for attractive roles, and by that I mean the scheme is just a one-year opportunity, but people have to look for jobs. People went on to do graduate studies, so we lost quite a number of people along the way, but at the end, it's all good.
Majority of my experience focuses on the job placement, which is both deployment and working in the country office. I have been working in protection in Gambela, mainstreaming protection into WASH and EFSL programs, and also supporting Somali standalone protection project.
A great milestone in my life. I came with really limited knowledge on what is all about humanitarian scheme, but the scheme has exposed me to learn more in terms of project management, proposal writing, and most importantly, how to work with beneficiaries and get the personal touch, how to do effective program to them.
Under the Secretariat, I was involved in capacity building through durable solutions trainings. I was involved in advocacy and policy. I was involved in coordination. I was involved in knowledge management. During my field placement, I was into the implementation of gender-based violence protection program
I've had the most interesting experience in my life. I would say the last 1 year has been the most productive in my life because I've always wanted to be a humanitarian worker. And the scheme has really opened up this area for me. I've been able to gain a lot of experience working in Nairobi and also in the Dadaab refugee camp.
The program is a year-long program which I've learned a lot of things, both technically and also operational aspect of humanitarian sector.
My experience has been awesome. I would like to say when I began during the Emergency Foundation course, I didn't really know much about the humanitarian world. I had a passion for working with children and women, especially having worked in urban slums in Nairobi. But now, after I joined, I got to learn about self-awareness and a lot about the principles, the humanitarian principles, the impartiality, the principles of humanity, neutrality, especially working in the field. I've been working in Turkana County, supporting the drought response from February to September, and it has been a good experience working in the nutrition department, especially working with children, seeing children with malnutrition survive and recover and become better, and seeing families with no food recover their livelihoods.
The scheme has been very helpful. It's been an eye-opener, and then we also got opportunity to learn about the humanitarian sector because I didn't know much about the sector. So it's been very important for me to know the various components of the humanitarian sector, all the way from the awards to the finances and the operations and the programs. So generally, the scheme has been very informative.
The program is a year-long program which I've learned a lot of things, both technically and also operational aspect of humanitarian sector. I really found the program a kind of groundbreaking or pioneering program as a solution for national capacity building need from Ethiopia side. The program taught us a lot of things through distance learning, field deployment, and also online learning, and also training composed of simulation, which means residential training. So from this training, I've learned a lot of things, especially in demonstration of core humanitarian competency during field deployment.
The humanitarian training scheme was an amazing experience. It had lots of ups and downs. I especially liked the fieldwork, but because it taught me a lot.
It was an eye-opening experience where I have gotten to sharpen skills that I had not thought of, core competencies, understanding humanitarian principles and the standards that are set. Having come into the program, I had not worked in disability mainstreaming beforehand. So I think for me the most important thing is I have been able to get the skills in disability, understand what disability mainstreaming is, understand the technicalities that are involved when we are trying to do that with the communities, with the government, and all the other important stakeholders. So that's something that I'm able to do now, even as in my current role at Handicap International, where I'm mainstreaming disability in employment.
The humanitarian trainee scheme has been an exciting experience. I remember first coming into the scheme, I only thought that I would get to utilize my nutrition skills, but so far the journey has taught me a lot. Through the core humanitarian competencies, I have been able to learn how to manage myself in a pressurized environment. I have been able to use the humanitarian standards and principles in programming. And yes, the journey and the experience has been, it's been more than I expected.
The experience for me was very new. It was interesting because I have never been in the humanitarian field. Basically, it was a foundation of actually working as a humanitarian person. And learning and unlearning some things was very interesting. I got to start from the beginning, get rid of the NGO jargon, learn what proposal writing is, learn how things are done in this field, and the policies and actually everything fundamental about the field.
It was a one-year extensive training, which consisted of all the distance learning, the field trainings, the AFC, the advanced field trainings, and the emergency foundation courses, and eventually leading to our deployment. And my experience as an entry level was very much enlightening in the humanitarian sector. It introduced me to all the technical sectors, to how to operate in the humanitarian sector and how to operate effectively in the field.
The humanitarian training scheme has been illuminating. It's been quite a journey. It's almost as if I've entered into a new world with its own rules, its own challenges and opportunities. And what the program has done is to equip me to be able to travel in this world in a safe, in a competitive way, and to be effective in this world.
Okay, the most useful thing I would say is self-awareness and discipline, because especially when I've been working in the field, I've learned to be focused and to take my work seriously and to meet deadlines. I've not been that person who is being pushed around. The scheme trains you to be proactive. So you find yourself taking initiative. And even in the field, I've got to meet and interact with other trainees. And there's always that common thing of being proactive, taking initiative. So the scheme is training us about self-awareness and the discipline.
The first thing I can say that the way the scheme is crafted, there's so much to learn. It creates a wholesome humanitarian. But with my interest in meal, one of the section which was most interesting to me was the classroom learning. That was the most interesting for me, followed by the field placement. This is for the reason that the field placement gave me an opportunity to put into practice what I'd learned in the classroom session. So for me, those two form the most, the best parts of HTS for me.
The most useful thing is perhaps the context, the humanitarian context that we operate in. It's almost like a light bulb moment when you understand what humanitarianism is all about, and you get to realize that it's almost it's in your life almost every day. You just didn't recognize it before because you didn't have the proper context. But now that you are equipped, you sort of see it everywhere, and you see the impact and the necessity of humanitarian actors, and that sort of inspires you and sort of reinforces the belief you had in joining the program in the first place.
It's been a wonderful experience. I've never really dealt with humanitarian operations before, so that was a lot of learning, a lot of intense learning, a lot of simulation training. I've learned how to do proposals, concept notes.
The most useful thing that I learned in the program was leadership in a humanitarian response. As I said before, I was placed at Lodwar Field Office, and for the time that I was supporting the emergency response, I was a nutrition officer in charge of teams that were going to do the response in the field. So my major role was to dispatch them to the field and give them guidance on where to get supplies or how to do the outreaches, that is using the nutrition, integrated management of acute malnutrition guidelines and protocols. So in addition to adding my technical skills, I was tasked with leading the teams. So that was the major thing that I could say I've learned from the scheme.
In challenging environments, especially in a multicultural kind of environment, and it's how to conduct myself that really enabled me to know how to cope with my stress, as well worked effectively with my teams and also other individuals.
In protection mainstreaming, which Oxfam's, the protection standalone project is the first standalone project for Oxfam. So it was all through mainstreaming. So throughout mainstreaming, you learn more about each sectors like EFSL, WASH. So I have learned a lot about both EFSL, WASH, and also protection.
Well, definitely I'm going to say teamwork. I was very comfortable in working alone. I preferred it even. But the program, what the program has done is to sort of inculcate an idea and indeed the belief that almost as a character now, that you cannot simply operate alone, and that teamwork actually makes you a more effective professional.
I guess it's not about you wanting to change the world, but that there are steps that you take to actually do that. And every part of it is fundamental in actually fulfilling that goal. And so I can't say that there's one specific thing that I learned, but it's the basic principle, the pillars of the humanitarian world that will make you actually have an impact in your society.
Working under pressure, and I'm more resilient than when I first entered this program. So.
The most useful thing I've learned from the program or from the trainee scheme is how to operate in a secured manner during the humanitarian response operation. I've been deployed to Gode Field Office, which is a completely new environment for me in terms of security, in terms of environment, in terms of all other aspects. But because of this program, especially the AFT training, I've used to manage these challenges in effective and efficient manner, and I have successfully accomplished my deployment.
Throughout the program, I've learned a lot of things, but the most interesting and most important things are program development, like writing proposals, the field work, how to take care of myself in hard environmental conditions, how to adapt to a cultural situation, cultural difference.
So I think the most useful thing I learned was all the things and the components we had on the AFT, the Advanced Field Training, and most especially on security. Considering we were deployed to South Sudan, it was a very insecure environment. We had to know how to be able to know about our personal security and not to put others in harm. So that really enabled me to operate safely when I was in the field. Also, I'd say the core competencies, because now I can manage myself in a very pressured environment, and I know how best to deal with stress and time management.
I'd say everything I learned was important, but I'd like to highlight the core competencies because they had a way of bringing order into what we were learning. So there's a way that the core competencies helped us to align whatever we were doing with what was the expectation of the scheme was. Particularly the safety and security competence was very important for me because in a context like South Sudan, there's a lot of conflict and fighting, and also the scheme helped me to appreciate the importance of operating safely and securely and ensuring that you don't put your colleagues at risk. Now I'm more confident in what I'm doing compared to when I started, because now I understand the processes, I understand the procedures, I understand the protocols that are to be followed. So the scheme has helped me to gain confidence in my work.
1 year through this scheme has taught me a lot. I can say I've become a better person, a better humanitarian worker. Yeah, so I've grown as a person, so it's changed a lot of parts of myself.
Right. I can say my work ethic has really improved. So beginning at the program, you put at a very fast pace. You have to go all the time. So I think from that, I am now able to be a very fast-paced individual. Considering I work now in supply chain, you always have to be on your toes. You have to know what's happening, so that you'll be able to be agile and continue picking up with all the things that are happening in the field. Otherwise, you'll fall behind. So considerably, my work ethic has really improved over the past 12 months.
Before this program, I had a very limited understanding of the humanitarian sector in general. So throughout this scheme, I have understood the humanitarian context more through deployment in refugee camps. I have understood the refugee camp setups, and also in Somali region, I traveled in Somali region throughout the waradas and zones. I have somehow understood the IDP site setup and how the programs run, the difference between how you run a program inside the host community and the refugee community.
I have become more effective, more efficient. Before this program, project management was just but a phrase, but now I am confident about implementation in accordance with the program log frame and other tools such as the Gantt chart.
In terms of gaining sense of purpose when I'm doing my task, has made me more efficient and fast in doing my conducts, and also getting creative way of completing tasks.
When I was deployed in Gambela, a protection officer position was not occupied by anyone, and they were not able to hire at that point due to funding reasons. So when I went to Gambela, I actually had to cover that position and actually work and deliver outputs based on my job description. So my input in that program was high, and I covered the gap within that scheme. And also when I was supporting, after I came to the country office, I was still supporting them in protection and gender assessments, developing tools. So this is how I impacted the whole program. And also for the Somali region standalone project, I was the one in charge of service mapping and so on. So that had real impact and real deliverables within the program. So that has impacted the whole program.
Okay, so I can say perhaps the people I worked with in South Sudan, because a lot of people didn't know things like, what's it called, humanitarian principles, and you know things like when you go out, you have to respect people, have to respect their cultures and all that stuff. Considering it is just you're coming in as a person from a different country, you also have to bring in your perspective of them, seeing how you are, and then engaging together that we can perform together.
I was more focused in completing the role, but from being in the scheme, from the learning that I got to learn from the distance learning aspect, from the EFC, that is the Emergency Foundation course, from the AFT aspect, I've learned to kind of integrate a lot of things into my work. So like managing myself in a pressured environment, learning how to deal with work stresses, tight deadlines, and meeting them, and still getting to deliver good, effective results. Yeah.
I certainly hope that I remain in the sector, particularly on the policy-making side of the sector. I want to get enough field experience, just enough for me to be able to transition into the policy-making side of things and be effective there, because I already have enough knowledge and experience about the field.
Me and my colleagues, my co-trainees, it definitely had impact on how we collaborated and worked together.
As one of the core humanitarian competence which you have demonstrated throughout this training scheme, teamwork is a very important thing. By using the teamwork, I've used it to share experience that I got from this training scheme. That is what I think is a kind of impact on others or the team.
Definitely, the learning has had an impact because, like I said, I was involved in a food security response. And much as I didn't get an opportunity to interact directly with the beneficiaries, I had a chance to get the data and to compile, and you could see the changes in target beneficiaries, the help they are getting, and Save the Children and other organizations. So I'd say yes, it has had a very significant impact, especially to the beneficiaries.
The most challenging time, I guess, was during the security drills. which apparently brought out some residual trauma that I didn't know I had. And I guess it was a bit challenging dealing with that. I probably didn't handle it very well. So yeah, that was quite challenging. Yeah.
Definitely the trainings, because I would say it's because they are very unpredictable. Now, that, as much as it was a challenge, it gave us an opportunity to learn. So the AFT specifically was very intense. And also, because we had already had an experience in the office, it gave us a chance to put what we had learned into practice, and also a chance to learn, because we had a chance to be corrected and to get the feedback. Also, the support that you got from your peers was also, I would say, a backup, a way of dealing with the challenges we faced.
I was working with urban refugees in Nairobi. So the geographical spread of our programming, the slum areas, so we were working in several slum areas across a wide geographical spread. So the human resource was limited. So we actually had to do go the extra mile and work extra hours. So that was something that was challenging, but teamwork came in handy.
Well, it's still through the deployment. In Gambela, the temperature was really high while I was in Gambela, so it was difficult, relatively difficult, but the most challenging part was when I was in Somali region. I had to travel from Jijiga to Kabridahar, Wardier, and so on, which are very far by a car, and it's very sandy. It's very difficult. We almost got lost and got to Somaliland and so on, so it was really challenging. And the guest house was really new. Nothing, there was no facilities in there. So we had to cope up with what we had. So that was the most challenging, and everything that we have learned during the EFC and AFD were so real during that moment. So that was the most challenging.
That's easy, because that's the field part. It was very hard because it was hard conditions, like there was no water, there was no light. It was very hot. So I think that was one of the hardest parts.
It involved logistics, it involved finance, and I had nothing. I had no idea about it. I had to learn, I had to collaborate with other people, and I was in a new country, so I had to learn how to work with people from different cultures and contexts. And after learning, now you apply what you've learned. So it was good to be baptized into hard work, but it was a good experience.
Definitely the trainings, because I would say it's because they are very unpredictable. Now, that, as much as it was a challenge, it gave us an opportunity to learn. So the AFT specifically was very intense, and also because we had already had an experience in the office, it gave us a chance to put what we had learned into practice, and also a chance to learn, because we had a chance to be corrected and to get the feedback. Also, the support that you got from your peers was also, I would say, a backup, a way of dealing with the challenges we faced.
Well, as I've discussed during my deployments, the environment was completely new for me. As I've discussed in terms of security, the area is not secured. The drought-affected communities there. A kind of heartbreaking situation was there during my deployment. But thanks to this training, I've used it to manage this challenging situation by using the skills that I've got from this training scheme.
By far, my deployment in ABA, I was a field officer there, and I think it's the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. You're the only person who's dealing with logistics in the office. Everybody's waking up in the morning. They expect you to move them from point A to B. They expect you to get goods for them, to take them to program locations. And every day you wake up, you go, go, go. From 8 in the morning to like 6 in the evening, you're just going, going, going. So by far, that was a challenging part of my time in the scheme. And I'm really proud of myself to say that at least I was able to get out of it with some experience of how to be a proper logistician in the field.
I think more strategically, and I'm able to use my time better and to prioritize, which was a bit of a problem before I came to the program, prioritizing tasks even when you're under pressure, so that I can know what needs to be done first, more rather than the others. So that has made me produce better work in my organization. I am able to meet deadlines compared to before I came into the program. And that is evident at the moment, even in my project officer position at Handicap International. My most challenging time, besides AFT, was in around June and July while I was deployed in Dadaab. There was a high security risk with attacks from Al-Shabaab, IED explosions. 4 humanitarian workers died because of an IED explosion. And so I was terrified, and I had to do a lot of soul searching to make a decision on whether I really wanted to stay in the humanitarian field or not. What helped me go through that time is the preparation that we had gotten in the AFT on how to operate safely. And that helped me be grounded during that time. It helped me be more confident about how I would handle a situation should the security risk escalate. I love working with people with disabilities. My experience in the past year has made me realize just how much they have been marginalized for so many years, both in the development and the humanitarian sector. So I'm currently the project officer for an inclusive disability employment project at Handicap International. I am hoping in future to be able to lead programs that will show the world the capabilities that people with disabilities have and how much they have to offer the society, and also for them to understand the economic disadvantage a country puts itself at when they sideline people with disabilities. Thank you.
I will definitely stay in this field. I think this is something I'd want to continue with. I'd like to expand, but mostly specialize in child protection. So this scheme helped me realize what I want to do, what I do not want to do, and I hope that I will get opportunities to grow into child protection.
I would hope to stay in the humanitarian sector. I've applied to a few places, and I have one promising lead, so let's see if that works out, then I'll be in the humanitarian sector for at least a year. I'm hoping I'll stay in the sector and specialize in child protection, and I'm willing to go more to the field now that I've tried it and seen that that's what I'm passionate about. So I'm hoping to stay in the humanitarian sector and specialize in child protection. Thank you.
What are your hopes for your future career?
Now I am not trainee. I've graduated from the program. I hope I will be the future humanitarian worker by using and employing what I have learned from the scheme. That's what. Thank you.
My hopes, I really want to continue in this humanitarian sector. Hopefully I can get to work in emergencies on a manager level, because I don't want to be an officer forever. So yeah, that's my career goal.
My hopes, I really want to continue in supply chain. So I really want, considering the field does not have a lot of women. So I really want to be able to climb the ladder, put a name for women out there in the supply chain field, that this is something we can also do. It's not only a male-dominated field, but us as women, we can also come in and be supply chain logisticians and conquer the field as well, and managers.
I would hope to specifically remain in the humanitarian sector. I feel like the confidence I've gained, I understand the sector better than I would maybe in the development world. So I hope to secure a position specifically with knowledge management and information management, because at least I know, the basics of how it goes. And I look forward to becoming, to leave a mark in the sector.
As a Somali region field office, we hosted 4 of the humanitarian trainees, one focusing in the humanitarian operations, the other one was education, FSL, and child protection. So my experience in working with them and involving in this program was started when I became a line manager for these 4 humanitarian trainees. Then we started with preparation of the plan, how they can engage in the programs and also support us. So I can say the engagement was very deep, from the attending different meetings, team coordinations, joint field trips, and engagement at the field levels, and doing some real-time reviews and also field monitorings. So I have been engaging in those areas with the humanitarian trainees. One thing was that the humanitarian training was not only a learners; they were also teaching us some of the principles, because most of them actually do not have the field exposure and on-hand experience, some of them, but they have managed to support us actually some of the things that we were missing in the response, especially the child protection mainstreaming in our programs. And also, as the line manager of these humanitarian trainees, it was actually an additional workload for me, but I have learned a lot, to engage them in multi-sectoral response of the children. For the Somali region drought response, they were handling some of the activities like report compilation. They were the one who was compiling the weekly situation report for the drought response. They were covering where we have a manpower gap, especially in different sectors, with the specific sectors like education especially. There was shortage of manpower in education. So one of our education humanitarian trainee was engaged in this education in emergency response and covered, some manpower gaps also. So they were supporting the team as a general, the response at team, and learning from the engagement in the field. Yes, I strongly recommend this scheme or to continue if possible, but I mean, because of the reason that I strongly recommend this program is that one of the challenge in humanitarian response was to get a trained manpower, especially ready to to provide immediate response, especially in Ethiopia. We have started, by creating a national roster, some staffs, but those are also not enough. So this program is very relevant to get manpower who is ready to immediately engage in humanitarian response. That is one of the main issues. So generally, and also the focus of the programs was very relevant, because the programs that they are focusing, like the livelihood, the humanitarian operation, education, child protection, was very relevant and will be helpful for the current and future humanitarian crisis.